They've been a part of our legends for centuries, so of course when storytelling evolved into cinema, you knew they were going to be a part of it. They can represent power, nobility, fortune, and heroism, but let's take a look at some of the more modern movie myths. This is Cinematic Serpents, a study of the history and metaphors of dragons in film on a very special episode of Real School. Dragons have been a strong mainstay in cinema for decades, but I think it's safe to say that one company has become master of all things dragon. For generations now, Disney has been a part of everyone's childhood, and in that time, they have created dozens of dragon movies that have inspired your dreams and haunted your nightmares. But that's the balance they've been able to create, the light and dark side of the imagination. One of the first dragon films was the adorable animated The Reluctant Dragon. This film showed the title dragon as peaceful, musical, and a misunderstood creature, animated in that great campy style that only early animation had. It was the kind of mythical creature straight out of the imagination of a small child, which seemed to be the inspiration for one of their follow-up dragon films and one of their follow-up dragons, Elliot in Pete's Dragon. This is a strong allegory for a child's imagination. Elliot seems to be Pete's imaginary friend, coupled with the fact that Pete's adoptive parents are abusive, and it extends the metaphor as the child tries to escape a harsh world. Which isn't the darkest connection that Disney has created when it comes to dragons. This animation juggernaut is also responsible for creating some of the most terrifying dragons in cinematic history, and thus responsible for some of the most terrifying childhood nightmares. I think one of the strongest examples comes from Disney's classic Sleeping Beauty. Maleficent at the end of the film becomes a giant, evil, and unstoppable dragon that is channeling all the powers of hell. And we know it's supposed to be frightening because within the character design they use colors like purple, black, and green. Colors that Disney has only used in a handful of villains. It will be interesting to see that if the Maleficent released in 2014 will try something new with the villainous icon. Perhaps even making the dragon relatable. The 80s tried many dark and twisted things in the fantasy genre. One of those things was playing around with what dragons actually are. Whether it was something simple like making the two-headed dragon in Willow seem new and strange, or redesigning the dragon completely, such as the Never-Ending Story. But it wasn't the fluffy puppy look of Falkor that was the real trend. The bond between a boy and his dragon had already been seen, but it was the fact that he was a luck dragon and that he was Atreyu's guide. That seemed to be some true inspiration for a new wave of dragons. Mixing the old and new, Falkor seemed to take from ancient Chinese beliefs that dragons are actually spiritual creatures. Later, Mulan's Mushu was a comedic version of that same dragon, and this minute little guy really tried to help our hero. In fact, he's akin to another Disney guide, Jiminy Cricket. Dragons in recent films are no longer mere monsters. They are wise, they are the hero's conscience, and the rock that they can really depend on. Without dragons like Mushu, Kilgara in Merlin, or Draco in Dragonheart, our hero really wouldn't know what to do. Which is why they're voiced by wise-sounding actors like John Hurt, Sean Connery, and Eddie Murphy. But sometimes the dragons don't even need to talk to create a bond. The kindred spirit dragon has actually been used many times now and makes the hero not just the hero, but a co-hero, and he and his dragon equals. Toothless and Hiccup in How to Train Your Dragon are shown to have similar infirmities and are the only ones that really understand one another. Aragon and Saphira have a telepathic connection in Aragon, and even though they seem like pets, Khaleesi's three dragons in Game of Thrones really represent her strength and her destiny. But as friendly as these dragons are, let's not forget, dragons can still be monsters. There's something primeval about the look of these Jurassic leviathans, perhaps even saying that there's an evolutionary imperative that makes us fear them. Although Sarah Palin would have you believe that a couple generations ago, her ancestors were probably riding them to work. With modern films like 47 Ronin, dragons are still representing unstoppable evil that only bring death. Dragon metaphors in contemporary cinema, however, represent very specific and modern ideals of what the apocalypse may be. In Reign of Fire, it isn't hard to see a few connections to problems in today's world. Christian Bale has been in other post-nuclear war films, and it isn't really hard to see that they're almost identical. Plus, you add Matthew McConaughey and his all-American guns a-blazing gang coming in to save the day, and the allegory of nuclear destruction is pretty evident. Another connection is to the impending overpopulation of today's world. The survivors, huddling for food and warmth, have to deal with dragons who multiply at an alarming rate and literally burn through the Earth's resources. Not so fun when we're not on the top of the food chain. The flaws of man and our ignorance is also reflected in one of this year's biggest films. In his Lord of the Rings novels, J.R.R. Tolkien actually wrote a metaphor that industrialization is ruining today's society. In The Hobbit, The Desolation of Smaug, well, the title dragon craves gold and power, even slumbering beneath the stockpiles of dwarf gold. Tolkien is trying to show us that if we preoccupy ourselves with capitalism, with consumerism, then really we bring nothing but bad things. With storytelling constantly evolving, it will be exciting to see what role these mythical creatures play in the future. Poll question, what is your favorite dragon movie? As always, leave your answers in the comments section below. But until next time, school's out.